Hello, everybody. This is Dr. Lusheen. Pardon my voice. I think I have a cold right now. But in this video, what I've decided to do this week anyway is to kind of give you my experience, my insight, to try and help with your development over the next 3 months and beyond. So, first thing I want to start off with is kind of going over what we have this week, because I'm interested in helping you guys out. So this is where this video is located. I want to go over these three items right here pretty quick. So this is from the American Society of Safety Professionals, how to recruit and evaluate safety personnel, and it's decent. It's got checklists and stuff like that. It refers to the Singapore Accord, which is part of an INCHPO, which is the International Network of Safety and Health Practitioner Organizations. If you aren't familiar with that, and you're going to work overseas, you want to become familiar. So let's go to the big subheadings. Think of EHS employees as value creators, not rule enforcers. I'm hoping that's something you're learning at the program here. OSHA's the minimum. It is a reference point to look at and to help. I don't want to say guide. I want to say just a source for information on what sort of documents and programs we need, but don't use it as the end-all be-all. It really is the minimum. Industry standards are probably better. So again, we should be going out and helping workers get their job done effectively and as safely as possible, and hopefully they elicit satisfaction from it. And if that's what we're doing versus just sending people home in the same condition they came in, then I think we're actually accomplishing safety versus just being lucky. So don't be a rule enforcer. Don't be someone that people are afraid of, that is punitive. Be social. Be a source of information. Be a source of someone who can motivate and make people happy. Don't underestimate the importance of relationship building. That's your number one. We got at the company I'm working at part-time right now, they hired a senior safety specialist. And so I'm working on the onboarding, which is going to occur on the 19th of this month. And I met with my boss real briefly on Friday, and she agrees with my approach that bring him in and get him as familiar as quickly as possible to the production floor. I want him to get out there and do basic visual, very simple, informal audits. Talk to people, not about safety, but just talk to get to know them, get to know their names. Ask about or start learning, memorizing the names of the equipment. Because it took me a long time to pick that stuff up, but I'm also there part-time or limited time. And so I'm going to try and get him out collecting and learning as much as possible while I maintain the work I'm doing. And then what we both kind of agreed on, she asked and I agreed, is that I would remain available to him maybe one day, maybe 2 half days a week for the next 4 to 6 weeks after that, just so that he can gain an understanding and become very proficient with the day-to-day, get on the floor, talk to people, responding to questions. What I can do is I can keep maintaining the higher level stuff and then just incrementally teach him to do that stuff too. And then I'll be able to go hands off and just be a person that can be called for questions. So the most important thing I've done while I've been there has been building relationships. People come in and ask things and guide things, and that's what's really driven the safety program for the last year. And I'll show you some data here in a little bit, but it was successful. And I do believe that's the way safety should be practiced. At least, at the beginning when you're first getting out. And we'll get into that in a moment. Separate the professionals from the practitioners. I don't like to label things per se. And so I want to talk about it more from what we use for job titles and what sort of responsibility and expectations come from it. But so at this point, I'm reporting directly to the plant manager or the, assistant director of operations. That's who's the top person. I report directly to her. She asked me for some input on things, but mostly I'm the subject matter expert. So I don't have any safety people reporting to me, but I do have people who have temporary assignments that report to me. Whether it's someone from my safety team, somebody from my collaboration team, the engineers, the maintenance, they all come to me with questions, and then I take on certain projects to resolve things. So, whereas a practitioner, that may be someone who's more close to the floor. You all will probably be more on the professional path than someone who comes from the ranks or has no background in safety. They kind of learn it on the job. And yeah, there is some value in that, definitely. But if you're going to start elevating up to a higher where you're going to start overseeing people, your locus of understanding doesn't really extend that far. And I'm going to talk about some basic techniques that we should be doing as we get out that you wouldn't normally do if you picked up the trade or the craft from the floor itself, the production floor. Consider collaborating with OHS specialists. I think that's very important. I think you got to start growing that network. When I have a question, I've got 5 people that could probably give me the answer a lot faster than I could Google it. And I'm not afraid to try new things. I have a lot of resources at my fingertips. You all need to become familiar with those. I'm trying to bring them to you in this class. You're getting them in other classes too. It's good to start documenting what those resources are. Yeah, get on the same line as corporate. So that's one of the first things I did. What are the big corporate goals for the year? What's their strategic plan? And then aligning my more tactical, apply practical safety goals along with those. And I'll show you that in a moment, how I did that. But most importantly, yeah, you do need management to see the value in what you do, to understand that we contribute to effective production. We contribute to good morale. We try to mitigate the forces that may cause things to break down or to cost more, things like that. You should be able to show that. Yeah. So it talks about a clear path, essential business, and leadership. So when you're first coming out, you're not so much a leader, but you're someone who is a subject matter expert. And then when you get really high up and you get separated from the floor, then you become a leader. Now what you're doing is you're delegating and mentoring other people on the floor, whereas that's where you started out. So that's a good article. This is an interesting one my friend Jill James put together or contributed to. How many safety pros do you need at this particular place? And it talks about, here's the thing too. I don't think there is sort of a standard equation like this. They took a shot at it, and I think it's an interesting read. But what I've learned over the last year is I'm at a plant with 135 employees and about 22 general staff. That's management, engineers, stuff like that. Part-time person is not enough. You need at least one person who's day-to-day there. And then I've got a counterpart at another plant. He has, I think, up in the upper 200s, lower 300 employees, including general staff. So he's got even a bigger place, and it's just him. He's doing just fine. He's looking to get an intern to help with some of the more day-to-day, but when it transitioned from his predecessor to him, he had more programs and things to go off of. I didn't. I had to kind of figure it out on my own. And so it'll be interesting to see how the new guy comes in and how he's able to pick up sort of I don't know what you want to call it, the program, the process by which I manage safety at the plant. And I think after some time, he'll get used to it, and he'll be able to bring in his own expertise and focus on the things he wants to. And then I'm always there to help out too. He can just contact me. But so how many do you need? Well, me going part-time is not enough. I was not on the floor enough. I didn't have time to really focus on the very basic compliance things, the documentation of it, but I accomplished a lot of the bigger, more social things, which is actually really tough to do. I didn't have time for anything else. So if you're at a place and you don't have the time to take a couple of days off, or if you don't have the time to go to a conference or get professional development or mental health, if you don't have that time, you need another person. It's as natural as that. However, if you've got so many people that you got a lot of people standing around not doing a lot, then you've got too many. That's kind of the way. And you really, depends on what management wants for the safety program too. If they don't want a lot, then it doesn't take a lot. So this is an interesting article. I just want you to kind of think about it. Let me know what you think. So this is older, but I've actually used this before in other classes. Of course, it's so old, it still has the old ASSE, American Society of Safety Engineers, versus the current ASSP, which is they exchanged professional for engineers. So I think it's kind of interesting the way they break it down. Now, entry, technician, I tend to think that's the same thing. At least it is today. This is how old? This is over 10 years old. Then there is a, I don't know, manager. I think there still is a supervisor level in there. So entry, supervisory, which would be more of the technical expert type thing. Manager, you should have people underneath you. Director, he has managers reporting to them, and then executive level has directors or managers. So some places don't have directors. A manager may be the top one. So executive level or corporate level, that would be for multi-state or international. Is that what you'd call it? International companies. So they've got places all over. You need a person at the top who is sort of the one who is gathering information from all the managers and technicians and out at the sites, and then putting it into the corporate policy, but then also then feeding back expectations for changes or trying to take lessons learned from this site over here to that site over there. They're making the big decisions, so they're making the big money. What's great is so it kind of talks about it. I'll let you read this. I don't want to take away from the enjoyment, but it kind of breaks things down. So entry level, 4-year degree, 2-year degree. See, I would say entry level maybe somebody who has no experience, right? Because then if you go to practitioner technician, it requires the degree, whether it's a 2 or 4 year. And I agree with that. And then the certifications are right here. The way I was thinking about it too is, this is like right out of school type stuff. You're being fully directed. As far as self-directedness is very limited. You're gaining experience. This is like 1 to 2 years experience in this level, and then you go to the next level. At least that's, so I'd say supervisor level at this point. I also may call this level officer or consultant. What else did I write down? Engineer, senior specialist, senior technician. That's the level I would put here. So experience, I wouldn't say that much. No, maybe a manager level would be this much. Senior, not as much. So I think this is kind of deviated a little bit. 3 years of experience, I would say that would be the supervisor, engineer, consultant. As far as a manager, 5 years would be max. 3 to 5 is what you typically look at now when you go online. If it wants 7, that's more of a higher level manager. You're going to have a good sized group of people reporting to you. Executive level, 8 to 10. I'd say it's 10 plus. 10 plus when you get to the executive level. I wouldn't say senior anymore. It's corporate. Or no, they've got executive, don't they? So I'd say maybe this is more of like the manager position. So like 5 to 7, maybe. Yeah, you definitely have you may have at least a bachelor's degree, maybe a master's. You've got the certifications. Here you're able to direct people because you have the experience on how to do it. You also probably have the capabilities to interact with corporate. Whereas this level down here, I'd say not as much. You're probably going through an intermediary, whether it's head of operations, which that's what I'm doing now, head of operations, or HR. Executive level, that again is more reserved for multi-state, international companies. And then you're the top person and you're sort of on the corporate board, and then you're reporting directly to the CEO, CFO. You're the one who is making big decisions, fighting for funds, reporting back, to the higher level. But you've got a very important duty. You have to be able to communicate back to all of your managers to make sure they understand who's doing what needs to be done. Here's the resources to get it done. So it's someone who has to have, higher level management experience, whether it's resources, people, things like that. I think it's interesting. It's all interesting. And I do think the further you go up the hierarchy, the more responsibility, the more money you have, but the more responsibility, more decision-making power. It's not as fun as the first few years. I really think that first 3 to 5 years where you're a technician and then you move up to like a lower level management, that's probably the most fun. That's where you learn the most. Anybody who was to go directly from school to like a upper manager, director, they would miss out on all that because that's so much fun. I think it's the most fun. That's why I've had such a great time at this company. Is I've been able to be that role too, even though I've had to do a lot of the higher level stuff. But again, it's getting out, talking to people, trying to understand why they do certain things, see that there's actual people, real people behind what's going on. It gives you a better appreciation for the work they do and keeping them safe. So this is Shirley Parsons. This is maybe part of the PPDP, but they've got good information here as well about different types of roles you may be able to apply for. They've got a lot of postings here. These tend to be more higher level, so manager, director, executive level. But still, it's good information, and they've got all kinds of resources here, okay? You can also go to LinkedIn and click on Learning. And I clicked on Learning, I typed in safety. And it's got a lot of psychological safety, behavioral safety, some stuff about data, some stuff about slip, trips, and falls. This is more stuff that you can look into. And it looks like they have one guy creating a lot of this content. What's this? Oh, that's not the one I thought. It was a different guy. So, again, there's some interesting stuff here. And I'm going to start consuming some of this. I may be reaching out to see if I can put together some videos for them, too. Wouldn't that be nice? Hazardous chemicals. Yeah, this Jim Rogers guy. Well, the ones I was looking at, he was doing a lot of them. Yeah. So, anyways, that's just another resource. All right. What I want to talk to you about now are some of the things I've been doing recently. I'm trying to give you an idea of what it's like. So, all in all, I started my career as a compliance officer. So, as officer level, I was going out doing inspections with Minnesota OSHA, and I had a team lead who oversaw me, and then there was the group of supervisors that reviewed all the reports I submitted, or the inspection reports. I had a industrial hygiene engineer manager, which he kind of oversaw all of us, made sure we were doing our performance numbers. He also then contributed to some of the feedback we received on our reports. And then there was the management team above that. And that was sort of the structure. So I started out as an officer level, and then I moved up to several, like engineer 3. And then I spent about a year in private industry, and then I realized I'm not going in the right direction. So went back as a senior engineer. And so at that point, what I was doing is I was more or less reporting directly to the supervisors versus having a team lead. They could have given me a team lead position if there's one open, but I was pretty autonomous, and I was taking on some of the bigger projects. So the head of the engineers group would come to me and say, "Hey, we just got a particular call. The news people are going to be there too. You go take a trainee." So I was doing that in my last year and a half at OSHA. It was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. But what I didn't really realize at the time was that I had the luxury of just pointing out problems, and I really wasn't as responsible for getting to know people or focusing on the solutions. Though I had certain ideas, I really didn't know because I was more of a pointer outer of problems. So when I got to graduate school and started working at the Department of Health and Family Services, I had the title of risk manager. And I was a limited term employee, part-time for 7 years, basically. And so I reported directly to the safety director. I was like her, I was more like her assistant in many ways. And then we had managers at all of our sites who would report to both of us. And then we also had, people who had association with us, the HR people at all the sites, and the maintenance heads at all the sites, and the work comp coordinators at all the sites. And so I was, asking them to send me data, and I was analyzing it for my boss. And then I was also going out and doing auditing for us. She had other stuff going on, it's government, and so I was handling a lot of the day-to-day busy stuff, and I enjoyed it. I loved it. And she gave me the flexibility to come up with projects based on things I was doing on campus, part of my graduate degrees. So it was a great experience. That's where I really learned how to handle data and present it. That's another thing we had in the first video was I want you to be able to present based on the reader. So then after that, I did some consulting work here or there, and I can share that work. But again, that was a company asking me, could you do a mock OSHA audit? Could you assess us for VPP? Could you look at what we need for safety training? Could you evaluate this particular issue? Could you help us with industrial hygiene assessments? So it was very much project based, and the employer, they defined it for me. Kind of like what we're doing here. Each week I'm defining what I want you to do, but they didn't tell me what it needed to look like. I had to figure that out. And based on my experience and knowing who I was presenting to, I knew what message needed to be sent, but I also knew how it needed to be sent. That I didn't want it to be a hammer saying, you're doing all these things wrong, you're going to get crushed. Rather, these are opportunities. Now, if OSHA was to come in, here's sort of a priority list of things I would focus on first, because this is what they'd nick you for the most. But you're not having to pay that. You know what it would be. Let's invest a little bit of money to correct these things. And then I was coming up with actual solutions. And that was what I learned when I was at the state. I was going out and finding issues, but then coming up with mitigating strategies. And also then acquiring funding and resources from, the higher ups, the secretary's office in the department. So I learned very much hands-on there, but again, it was government, not private industry. So I was getting experience through my consulting and knowing how to define, document what they needed, and putting it in a language, in a format, in a context that they would understand the importance of what needed to be done and felt positive about investing resources into it. Okay, I'll put it that way. Now, let's talk about what I'm doing now at this company. So I am their EHS manager, and right after I started, I guess your reputation precedes you, and they saw the letters behind my name and everything. And so I think they gave me more latitude than what they had given to previous people who were kind of holding my position. And I was able to immediately define what environmental safety health looked like from a corporate perspective. So upper management, I got their buy-in because they saw it, they heard it, they saw how it linked to the decisions they make. And then I went to the floor, what I'm saying, the people who are on the production floor, the maintenance guys, I got to know them. And I asked them questions, and I learned from them, and I was appreciative to them, and everything was pleasant, and I tried to help them if they had a question, and if they had a problem, I'd try to figure it out for them. And that's what I did. It was really tough, though, because that's a full-time job, being down on the floor, talking to people, fixing things, all that other stuff. It's a whole nother level position or set of responsibilities when you're dealing with the corporate stuff. So my time has been, I've been doing the most amount of work I can in the smallest amount of time. It was really good for spring and summer, but then when fall hit, things got busy, and right now I'm super busy. So it's nice that they're hiring on the senior person who I can train in and then just help out as needed. I think at this point what I'd like to do is share with you my most recent presentation that I'll be giving actually this week. So by the time you're seeing this, I've probably already given this presentation, and then we've got our quarterly operations meeting, I believe, in a week or two, and I may expand upon it. So when it comes to performance, I completely rebuilt the way corporate is told about how safety is performing. Prior to me coming in, they talk about incidence rates, and they talk about other forms of loss and things like that. And then they'd report, training and audits. That was really it. I expanded it, and I've got leading indicators, lagging indicators. You've probably heard of that term before. Let's actually look at these. So My number one is safety observations and concerns. Initially, I wanted to create an app for a phone that workers could use to either take a picture or send me something. And that would then, dump into like an Excel document, and then that would be how I'd track things. Careful what you wish for. I worked with this outside contractor to get this stuff done forever. And all I could do is get them to create it as a sort of a system within what they have now, and it's only limited to general staff. So I've had to collect a lot of this stuff manually. Not cool at all. I did set some pretty high goals for it, and I more than exceeded it. And so I've set, again, I think a very bold expectation per month. And I had 33 in January. I was busy in January trying to get stuff. More importantly, though, I want to report what gets resolved. Now, this was basically one of 13 months in which I actually closed more things than I had open. And the other thing, too, is I need to go back and audit the system I have. It doesn't have enough information, or enough information that I would want, so it's not standardized well enough. And I've got redundancies in it. I've got multiple observations to concerns that are kind of the same thing, and I have to collapse those. So the new guy, as he's learning it, will be able to reduce the numbers. So right now I've got 101 open concerns or ongoing, and I want this to get down to 30 by the end of the year. Because then you're getting new stuff, you're closing things out. If you're doing those things, you should experience less exposures, because it requires you to get out and talk to people and acknowledge their input. And that's what I've been doing all year, but not documenting it in a way. I've been doing it all manually. Not cool. The safety training, I kind of set that aside. I'm doing some calculations right now. And if my site, which runs 5 days a week, 24 hours a day, is able to produce anywhere from 12,000 to 13,500 filters. Those filters sell for about $40 retail. If I pull them off the floor for 2 hours a month, each person, so what you're saying is, for out of a month's time, which is 4 times 40, which is about 160. 2 hours out of the 160, I'm doing very big numbers, everybody. 2 out of 160, that's only 1 out of 80. So what? That's a half hour each week. That's not a lot, but 1/80th of that big number I just told you is like, I think it's around like 12 to 16 grand a month that workers are not producing the things that make them money. And all of 2023, or almost all of 2023, they were behind. They were barely filling some of the orders or filling them late. And so I felt that my role was to assist them. And so therefore, the safety training was very, very condensed, and I took my shots when I could during pre-shift meetings. They give me 5 or 10 minutes, and I kind of got by on that. So I think as they're just catching up right now, I think they've got one more voluntary overtime. They've had a lot of overtime required. If they have one more voluntary overtime, I believe next week, after that, I think that I can get the new guy to be meeting with people more regularly and covering the topics. I've got all the information. You just need time and a better way to reach them. Instead of me like yelling in a theater of the round in the warehouse, sit them down so you can face them and talk to them. But I did do new employee orientation. I did heat stress training. I've done a lot of stuff. I've done a lot, but it's all very much on the go, on the floor, though that's kind of what workers prefer. That's the word I was looking for. As far as JHAs and safety audits, I just didn't have the time. I was doing informal stuff, but I was relying more on what people were giving me or telling me versus doing my own. And they were a little bit put off by that when I initially proposed that I was going to focus on this stuff. But, the numbers show that focusing on these things, it's working in many different ways. And then I've got my leggings. If I had an OSHA recordable, just overall, whether it was days away or restricted transfer, and that's based on what the doctor says or the licensed healthcare provider, The ratio of observations to the lost time cases, that is sort of an indicator that, if this is not what I said at 30 to 1, there should be a lot more observations and concerns than actual lost time injuries. Because if more people are reporting, you should be able to be correcting things to mitigate it. The other is the near miss first aid report only to OSHA recordable, just overall. I set that at 15 to 1. And so the more you're learning of things that are not causing the level of harm that would make it recordable, you should be able to correct those. And those should have a little bit more of a priority to them as well, And this work has really guided and helped me make it more realistic, showing the real potential for harm or the potential or the opportunity for improvement to management. That's the other thing this stuff does. And so these are very bold goals. And then, of course, we've got the incidence rates, 12 case of DART. I did have one lost time injury this last month. Guy didn't lock out a machine the way he was supposed to, and it jumped and grabbed him. And so he was off one day, and that already gave me a 0.7. Didn't allow me to really make what I wanted. That's why I colored it yellow. Green means I'm doing good. Red, not good. Yellow, it's, we'll see. And so, yeah, this is what I present now. So I've got 2 full years of data to compare the previous month and the current month. So that's what I do. It's pretty cool. Here is like the example of what I assemble, and I assemble it each week until the end of the month of like a 300 log. But what it has is the summary of really what was reported and then what we did to follow up, which is what's lacking from OSHA 300 reporting. I've got a breakdown of OSHA recordables to my other reports. So I had a total of 19, but only one OSHA recordable. I get more information from other reports, and then I've got the causal factors: unsafe condition, cut puncture scrape, body reaction. These are things that can drive us to, it's information that I can bring to meetings to ask for things. Here's my actual OSHA numbers. You can see I've got them from 18 to 23, though I should asterisk 2020 because these numbers are not right. And the records I could find did not support what's in here. And then, of course, they like to see charts and things like that. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 calendar years of data, and then each month. So the new guy will be able to pick this stuff up and go with it. I've got it just built into a tab. It's very easy to update. These numbers don't give me much. I still report them because they asked for it. Here is the observations, corrections, and things that remain either in progress or ongoing. As you can see, the gray bar, we want the gray bar to get down to the red, and we want the blue and orange to be above the green. That's basically what that means. So the focus last year was learning more of what people are concerned about. The goal this year is to correct more of what people have reported. I've got my safety project set up here. I need to update the tracking system. I knew it's always kind of been an issue. We've gotten by, but now management sees it as this needs to be a priority now because this is what we've seen. And so I'm happy to help out, working on that right now. Decrease in progress, so start closing more things. I'll talk about that. Again, this is also for the new guy. Oops, sorry. Rebuild the safety share drives because I kind of blew them up. There's some redundancies there that also need to be fixed. So I will work with the new guy to build them because they're going to be his. And then my boss, who's going to be his boss, won't have to contact him for information. It'll just be right there. I just haven't been able to get to that point because I'm so busy with coming up with this higher level stuff and tending to the floor stuff. I would like to, the last thing I want to do before I leave is give them a corporate EHS program, an upper level thing, predicated on all the data I've collected, giving them the language and format by which they should customize programs. And then, again, I'm working on data like I talked about with, you pull people off the line for an hour for training. This is what it's going to cost. I'm also looking at the costs associated with all the PPE we order and everything else, because I would like to consolidate some of that stuff. Here's my strategic goals. Everything is within the business priority of improving the culture. I put it the safety culture. You guys know I don't like that term, but that's what they like. I've got the categories to increase engagement and demonstrate management commitment, increase visibility of safety throughout the organization, and foster continuous improvement of safety. And then I've got SMART goals, and I've got the measures. So you're thinking, well, that's what he's having us do for our project in the class. Exactly. Yes, that's what I need to do. So that's what I'll be presenting on Monday and probably the following week for the quarterly. What are some other things I've been working on that I can show you? We have, that's weird. We have to submit by March 1st our Tier 2 plan. I don't think we have to submit the stormwater or the spill containment. I'll have to check on that, but right now they're asking us to submit all of our air emissions inventory. And so I just tracked down all these numbers from different parts of the plant, submit this to the consultants we hired to help us out. So I didn't have to relearn anything, but going through the process of collecting data and asking questions and then verifying that they make sense has educated me on what is needed for the permitting and all that other stuff. So that was kind of cool, kind of a bonus that I got to learn about. Here is my big data file here. I've got my observations. Again, they should be coded better. You see, I did better at the beginning. Then as you go through, we start losing things. But I've been re-auditing stuff just so I can come up with a better way to get things. I've been looking at charged hours between the two facilities. And what I'm going to be able to calculate here is that I don't have much in the way of work comp hours being paid. I don't have a lot of safety training hours either, especially compared to the other plant. And I think that those are numbers that I can actually then turn into dollar values to show that, well, as we start moving into more continuous, more regular training that the new guy's going to do, this is the potential impact. But I didn't do that, and that's how we saved money there. Here's my 2023 tracking numbers. I went through and this is where I found out that the numbers they were using were incorrect, so I was verifying them, make sure they made sense. Here's my 2024 numbers. Here's my monthly report numbers. It looks like the same thing, and I may combine them for the new guy, but then it generates all these figures, that the new guy can use. I've been working on different ideas for updating goals. This is the old tracking system, and I still use it for generating at least this figure, but this stuff, it wasn't as good. I've got OSHA log information here, and I summarize it by year. Here's my raw reports for 2023. Here's my raw for 2024. I tried to break down things by non-OSHA recordables. Here's my modified reports. So this is what you saw before. So I've got one for each month. And then I've got a few other things I'm kind of looking at too, just to break things down. And I'll be helping out the new guy with that stuff. So that's a very important document. My face-to-face class came out and visited me last week. And if any of you, we're going to start talking about this, need a topic to work on for your first case study for this course, I do have a bunch of them I'm going to try to accomplish here at this plant. So I already finished the lockout, tagout, and electrical safety training for authorized users, though, just Friday, no, that's not what I wanted. Where is it? Let's see. On Friday, they came to me, and there was an issue, and they needed, no, it's not there. They wanted some workers to help clean out this machine so they could do, because this old machine, what they were running before had carbon in it, and that carbon tends to flake off when they go through the pleating, and so they had a buildup of carbon dust. Not really hazardous, just dirty, and the new run of product needed to be more pristine, and so they had to lock and take it out, and they needed workers to clean it out. But the problem was they weren't trained to work around something that's locked and tagged out. So I said, no problem. Give me a half hour. I'll build the training. I'll conduct it, and I'll document it. And I wish I could find it. Why isn't it here? I found it. I thought I had opened it. You're probably like, what the hell did he do? Well, I had created the one for authorized users. So what I did is I did a modification for affected. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, look at 29 CFR 1910-147. So I gave him the basic definition of what's going on. I talked about, that I found a verification document. I'm not seeing it right here in front of me, but I printed off a bunch. It's from CDC. Talked about what is lockout tagout. Told them that their key is they need to be careful The machine shouldn't start up, but there still could be things that are hot or sharp or things they could bang their arms against. And so, in addition to that, I wanted them to know they can never remove a lock. They can never attempt to activate anything. That's for authorized workers. But if they ever do have a question, everyone should stop what they're doing and then go get either their supervisor, one of the authorized personnel who actually locked and tagged it out and signed the verification form, or me. So I gave them the basics of lockout tagout. I left this with them. The 3 slides they have is just kind of talked about what is the principles of lockout tagout, that electricity and compressed air are really their only concerns. Secondarily, though, sharps, heat, and possible contact with or struck by, but that would be their body doing it or awkward postures. And then just talked a little bit about something that came up from a safety alert, and that is, be aware of what it is and know what to do. I read it to them again. I signed off. They signed off. I made sure that they read aloud the acknowledgement statement. And that was that. And then I left a copy of that with their supervisor, and I put one at the machine along with the verification. And I felt now where I'm comfortable with workers cleaning this machine and do it in a safe way. And they did. And they did a fantastic job. I checked on them a few times. So could you guys do something like that? You're probably asking, is that the letter of the law? It's more than the letter of the law. I was assured that they would be just fine, and then I double-checked to make sure that my assumptions were met. So that was lockout tagout. I've got 5 face-to-face students. They already selected. One was assigned topics. So one of them is going to help me update the powered industrial truck manual material handling. So it's basically fork trucks, grabbers, spike lifts, walk-behinds, scissor lift, and pallet jacks, manual pallet jacks. They're going to help me with capturing those training programs, which Crown does do for you, but my trainers didn't know about it, so it's all paper version. So it's it's difficult. So I'm going to update that. And so I have a student who's going to update that. Incident and emergency response plan. So last semester we had a student work on that, but I could still use help. I have a student who's going to help me finalize all aspects of the environmental management program. I know it's needed. Got the paperwork. I just would like someone to help put it all together into one place and make sure that we're training the right people. I have the videos to train them with. Just haven't had the time to do it. If somebody wants to help create sort of a plan for 2024 for the new guy for auditing JHAs and then reporting results, I could use help on that. I could also use, so the ones that aren't green or red, I could use help on if you want a project. You don't have to come on site. I can send you everything and fill you in. I completed 2 full shifts of noise monitoring, and I probably got about 95% of the audiograms done last July, but some stuff fell between the cracks. And so I need help getting that, and a student accepted it already. I just completed particulate matter exposure. It's fiberglass, fibrous glass. I could use help formalizing that report. Didn't monitor for VOCs, but I am going to recommend that they purchase some data logging equipment for this one oven area. And it's not really VOCs there. It's actually oxides of nitrogen, carbon, and sulfur. Let's see here. This PVC glue area is a VOC emission point, but they just need, I know what they need to do to redesign it. I could just use somebody's help to kind of make it look pretty. Working on the ventilation design for the oven. That's the problem you guys did in week 2. Still working on this. Still, it's just kind of a slog, okay? I have a student who's going to help me with HAZCOM, so they have to come on site for like an hour, hour and a half, and walk through with me and document it, put together the inventory, and then we'll create the plan. I currently use HMIS. I want to move to the Global Harmonized System. Heat stress, I've got all the documents, I've got all the data. I just need someone to help me put that together, and other students said they do that. The last 2 that are available would be preventive maintenance plan for wheels and casters, because the manual moving equipment, they can get gummed up with like tape and paper and wood and stuff, and then it makes it more difficult to move them and straighten them out properly. That's causing strains of the shoulders and back and arms. I could use help with a corporate written program. I know what I want. I just need someone to help me put it together. And then lastly, I would really like to create a first aid teletriage system. So if somebody gets a cut or feel a strain or they don't feel well, there's a place they can go 24 hours, a day, and talk to a nurse or someone who can kind of evaluate them through like WebEx or whatever. And then they would have access to more than just first aid supplies to treat themselves or be treated, because I want people trained to be first responders there. Or they know that, okay, I need to go to this urgent care or this emergency room, and this is what I tell them. And I think there's a lot of savings to be had in taking advantage of a program like that. My other site is piloting it right now, but I would like to have it on site too, because we've had some kind of scary, weird situations, and the response is get them to urgent care, get them to the emergency room, and it's not always an emergency or something that needs urgent care. It'd be nice if we could just work through things like that. So those are case studies that I've got 5 students working on. A few of these, those are the ones in green, the ones that are in white. If anybody listening to this is interested, I can hook you up, and that would be your first case study. We weren't going to talk about this until March, I think, but last week they expressed they wanted to come see the site, so I walked them around, and that's what we saw. Pretty cool, right? Let's see, anything else here that I have? No, not really. I think that, there is. So here is my folder. And so you see, the way you label things are very important. And there's little projects that I'll work on that, let's see, where's one? I thought I just saw it a second ago. It was one with, so people were complaining that their sinuses and eyes were hurting, and they were wondering what it was. So I assessed it, but I also knew that that was the week in which we had the sub-zero temps outside. So I looked and I saw that the humidity levels had dropped considerably in the plant. So I put out this training information on dry indoor air and what are the symptoms, and told them what could happen. And I put up these pretty pictures, and I've been doing that a lot, and the workers really like it. It's simple. It's just something they can just read real quick, and what they could do to try to alleviate those symptoms. Sleep with a humidifier, take longer hot showers, breathe in that steam, use eye drops to moisten the eyes, things like that. Helped out. It helped them. I've done like different types of case studies. Let's see, my exhaust ventilation for the bonding line. This is what I'd like them to build and try out. And I thought that I had listed the sensors. I hadn't done that yet. So I've got a list of sensors that I want to order to start tracking things. Probably, let's see, what's this? This is my hearing conservation training. So when we were doing our audiograms, I knew I didn't have a lot of time, but I created this trifold. Oh, it's just a fold, one fold. And then went over this quietly with the workers as they waited to get their hearing tested, and I had them sign off on it. So that was the hearing conservation program training, and I just did it in a lull of their work. Let's see, we had a safety alert for tapers. I'm working on an updated training program because we completely revolutionized. See, right here, this thing right here, this is the blade, and this is the blade enclosure. Problem is, it can stop out, so people accidentally contact it. Or what some of them said is sometimes it would protrude out. So we created a guard that went over this so that you could actually reach into the machine and never contact it. I'd actually let my kids reach their hands in after. This isn't a real picture, but I do have the real picture. Almost as bad. Let's see, what else do I have here? I guess the last thing I'd like to show you is documentation is so important. So here's my daily journal. I've got one for each day. And you can see here, it's all labeled. I can look back at things. This is how I kind of confirm or verify the observations and concerns, because I try to track who I talk to, what we do. I try to put important information in here. And this is something that I wouldn't be as successful as I am if I didn't have these things. So I know what I need to do for the day. I track my work hours too. Sorry, sick. And the things I'm working on, who I'm talking to, what things I found, pictures, whether it's from a website or pictures I've taken, just all kinds of things I'm working on. So if somebody asks me a question, I can go back and look at it. You see all this stuff? So I've been adding to it. They used to only be one thing per day, and then I found that sometimes I go back and I'll audit my stuff. So if I were in your position for classes, this is what I'd be doing: tracking, reviewing, summarizing to make sure I got stuff done. So, having said all of that, let's see, where is the final thing here? That's what I wanted to talk about. As far as career expectations, the different titles and responsibilities and expectations, and who you report to, and what your authority or sphere of power or control might be. And that when you start out, you should have someone mentoring you. You should have someone kind of guiding you and showing you the ropes of the company. Each company is a little bit different, but you should be able to. I've always been able to kind of pick up, what they're focused on, what they'll allow, what they won't allow, and so yeah, you guys are gonna have to figure that out. But I just wanted you to know, documentation is the key right now. First thing you want to do when you start working is going out and talking to people, learning the names of processes, learning the criteria they use in meetings. These are all things that are going to help you because you need to align your work to what they're used to. Speaking in their language, super important. Getting to know the workers, having them trust you, that they can bring questions to you, concerns to you, and you won't look down on them, and you'll try and fix things the best you can. That's one thing they've learned, is that they bring me something and then I go talk to the people about it. Because they're concerned about bringing certain concerns to certain people. I'll do it for them. Sometimes it's completely anonymous is not the term. Confidential. Other times they can kind of figure out who it is. And I'm like, come on, there's validity in their concern. I had to redesign a guard the other day. I convinced one of the engineers that one of the shelving units needed to be turned 90% because it's putting the assembly guy. It's sort of an ergonomic issue as he pulls these 4x8 sheets off. He's like, okay, we'll do it. So the other thing is they trust me too because I've helped them out with their work. They have a concern about something, I jump up and I go take care of it. And that's why my notes and programs are kind of all over the place, and I don't have the auditing system. I kind of put that compliance stuff aside to fix the things they needed fixing and talking to the people I needed to talk to. So this has been longer than I thought, but I wanted to share at least a little bit of what I had learned over the last year and kind of share the success of what I've done at this company. I'm going to be sad when I'm not going to be going out there as much, but I do, I'm looking forward to having more time to work on writing and other content. So it's all good. I hope this was helpful. So kind of summarize, pick out what you, I'm interested to read what lessons you learned from this video. And again, reach out to me if you ever have any questions. Thanks, everybody.